You ever feel like you've got more tools than time? Every ad out there promises to save you hours, but somehow you end up buried under dashboards, zaps, and logins you don't even remember creating. That's the trap. More tech doesn't mean more clarity. It usually means more chaos. So today we're cutting through the noise with someone who actually gets it. Andrew George, founder of XXI Designs and one of the sharpest minds I know when it comes to go high level and automation. We're talking about how to simplify, filter the noise, and build systems that save your sanity, not steal it. This is the Undeniable Podcast. Let's get into it. So one of the biggest things that I have figured out is that I am really good at building a Frankenstein. And I think a lot of people do that. It's like they have this problem and then another, and so they buy this thing, and then they have another problem and they buy this thing. And one of the things that I was sort of sharing off air as an analogy that I came up with is that if you have a blister on your foot, there are a lot of Band-Aids out there, right? But there's not a better shoe. And I think a lot of times the reason that exists is we're looking for a turnkey solution or an out of the box problem solver, and really that's got to take some intelligent design and thought and capacity to do that. And that's what I really kind of want to dive in with you today, because I have personally struggled with this, and how often are you seeing that? What do you see one of the most common things when your expertise is called into play? What is the common thing that you're seeing everybody do?
Well, the biggest problem is most software companies for these sorts of problems have been around for 20 plus years. Think about things like WordPress. When most people approach problems in their business or just personally when they're trying to build out solutions for things, they go to companies that they know. But the problem is a lot of these older companies don't have the knowledge or the expertise in order to build custom solutions for these types of issues. The beautiful thing about AI is that now custom solutions are more accessible than ever. It used to take hours in order to actually build out platforms that would do something specific for you. But now, since there's AI solutions to help you build out software platforms, to help you build out integrations, even with agentic AI and automations, now people have the ability to put together one solution, one workflow that works for them. But there's just a lot of nuance to that area. There's a lot of technical knowledge that you have to have, and just small things that you have to work around, like authentication or setting things and going from a test environment to a live environment. So most people just don't have the expertise in order to get to that area. So I want to talk a little bit about how we can get there and how to kind of like bridge that knowledge gap of going from just using ChatGPT to how can we use AI and other software platforms out there to actually build custom solutions for you. That's kind of what I want to focus on.
Okay. Well, and that is probably first and foremost, I think what a lot of people want, right, is, and I think with the introduction of AI, I believe probably the biggest pitfall that I have seen even in myself is that the belief of capability on, you think ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your AI interface is, they think it can solve all of the problems. And so when it comes to execution of it, I mean, because you can get a lot of really great advice. I think by and large, I have used it for so many things to understand on how to set things up. Even when I first go high level and started working with it, I would go back and forth between ChatGPT to help me figure out how to build automations. And it didn't take very long for me to realize I am way out of my depth, right? Those sorts of basic kind of things. And I personally struggle with how CRMs think and automate and all the little bitty nuanced steps and exactly what I do. One of the things that I have seen is that people will write down a process and that's not their process at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got to imagine that's a struggle when you go in and start working with somebody. So is it easier to work with somebody who has some knowledge, or is it easier to kind of just get that blank slate?
Well, a lot of times people start a process and then they end halfway. Like they'll go to ChatGPT and have an SOP developed for them. but then they don't actually finish developing it into something that is an automated process. Like think about contractors, for an example. If they want to have a process of meeting homeowners, closing deals, sending out documents, sending out payment links, and then closing a deal, they might know that that's what they want to do, but they haven't set up the automations and the payment links and the back end in order to actually do it. That's kind of where CRMs come into play. And usually it's just too big of a barrier for a lot of people because, like you said, it's really complicated and it is a very deep pool in order to get into. So we find that most of the time it's a lot easier to work with someone if they're letting us teach them along the way and guide them into using the platform, because something else that I see a lot personally is people that want these solutions but then don't use them. They'll want a solution like telling ChatGPT, build me a website that does this or an app that does this or this process, but then they forget that they have to consciously be in the process in order to use it. That's where most people miss on CRMs. But the people that do really well with CRMs, like you and I have experienced, like you do really well with it, is when they're willing to get in there and learn about it. But having sort of like guided learning around that is really important. Just jumping into something like high level without any experience or knowledge or someone to guide you into using it, or even Zapier or Make or N8N or all these other platforms like you can build automations with. Typically, if you're jumping into it completely solo, you're going to have a hard time. But there's tons of videos online. There's tons of people that are willing to help with it. But as long as you have a willingness to learn and you have the ability to like not rush things, a lot of people want to rush things with AI. They want to just tell it ChatGPT to build it and then be done. But if you can work with it over a 3 to 6 months time span, then you're definitely going to get the success you need. You just have to be willing to like put in the effort. Even though AI does most of it, you still have to work with it.
Okay, so answer me this. I this may get a bit pedagogical, but go with me here, okay? Like circle time. Okay, yeah. Talk to me like I'm a kindergartner.
Yeah.
AI is a term that is thrown around all over the place, right? I mean, whether you're watching a television commercial, it's like, with the power of AI, we bring you a new, this new ability, this whole thing. Yeah. And your television commercials, you're scrolling through your feed on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and there's always this sort of like, hey, we're going to make your business easier. This is all you've got to do. Quit making videos. You know what I mean? Quit doing this, because all you have to do is type in this prompt and you can add, and all of that kind of stuff. How do you cut through? Is any of that any good? Or are people just trying to sell?
A lot of it is buzzwords. A lot of it's just trying to sell it. That's like totally true. Like if a company has AI in it, they will immediately be worth more according to VCs and all. Like in the past 2 years alone, there's been something like $5 billion invested into brand new AI startups that don't have products yet. They just have an idea and they throw AI into it, acting like it's going to be this revolutionary thing, like an AI video editor. Well, like half the time it's not AI, or maybe it has a tiny little AI feature that makes it feel AI. That gets people more money. It boosts the share price up for a lot of companies. And that's why everyone's talking about, like, especially in the past couple of weeks, about the AI bubble, because there are thousands of companies that are AI companies and they're not, or they're not actually utilizing the AI.
What is the difference between automation and AI?
AI is defined as artificial intelligence, obviously. So when we're talking about AI, I think the biggest difference between an automation and AI would be something else providing input. So if you build an automation, you're the one that builds it the first time and then it runs, versus AI, it's the one providing its own input. So that's kind of when we're talking about like agentic AI, or the ability for it to learn by itself. That's really the only thing that defines AI as AI. It can learn on itself. But even like regular AI, like ChatGPT, does have, like, it is mostly AI, but there's still like loopholes in it. Like, did you ever hear about the wine cup generation problem?
So let me tell you. Unpack it.
So with ChatGPT, you can make images, right? And for the longest time, ChatGPT's been out for what, 3-ish years, maybe? Yeah. So people would ask it to show me an image or make me an image of a glass of wine filled to the brim. And it couldn't do it until literally months ago, because there are no existing images of wine cups filled to the brim on the internet.
Wow.
So we think it's AI. We think that it's building everything from scratch. But even with that, it can't develop it on its own, because it can only work off of its existing knowledge base. They recently fixed that. The only way they fixed it was by giving it an image of wine filled to the brim.
So they didn't fix it.
They didn't really fix it. So that's what a lot of people misunderstand about AI. AI is really just pulling information from a database, because like we said, it's trained based on the internet. Now it has the ability to create its own content, like generative AI, like creating images, creating text, etc. But it's all still trained. A real AI is something that you just push it out with no training, and then it can exist, and then it starts to learn like a human, right? But even humans, like we need training throughout our childhood and everything. But that's something that a lot of people miss about AI. So AI pulls data from databases in order to generate text, images, whatever it's trying to do. Versus automations are human input one time and then it goes.
Right.
AI gives it the ability to constantly iterate on itself. That's the only difference. So like that's the difference between what people think AI is and what it actually is. People think AI is just generating out of nothing. AI actually is taking information from a database, generating, and then reiterating based off of that. So you can tell it to improve on something that it's given you, and it can improve on itself.
Gotcha.
That's the
okay.
difference.
Right. It's not just I went and searched an image, found the image that you're looking for, or close to what you're looking for, and I've showed it. That's a Google search.
Right.
Right.
That's a Google search.
There's a big difference between that, and it's interesting that you're talking about the wine glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of that kind of. So one of the things that I have noticed, right? Okay, is because it is getting 100% of its ability to predict what you're asking for, at a level from the internet. And so I want to take my profession, and I don't want to dive into my profession so much, but I work as a public adjuster, right? And there are less than 10,000 public adjusters nationwide. Okay, out of 350 million people, only 10,000 of us, and you math whizzes out there can figure out what that percentage is, but I'm not going to do it here. We'll flash it up on the screen or something. But 10,000, I don't know what that percentage would be off the top of my head, but that is such a small amount of input, right? That when you go ask AI the information, who is providing the most information concerning insurance claims? And that's going to be insurance carriers and their interpretation of what policies say, rather than possibly case law. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to go to the most prevalent, ready information that seems to be consumed by the most people, where they find the most relevant information, right? So it's all based off of our input that it believes that it is giving you the answer that you're looking for. So very early on, I realized ChatGPT could make mistakes. Like it's just wrong. It infers things, it predicts things, it hallucinates. It can't even do
math right.
Right, it can't even do math right. And I learned that because it doesn't know what to do with the numbers, because I mean, it's still reading ones and zeros, right? At a level, and it doesn't really know what to do with those numbers. I noticed that it couldn't do math right. Once it gets something in its memory, it won't let it go. For example, I was talking about a claim that was around $47,000. Well, it was $40,642.18. And when I start talking about numbers, I was talking to it because that number was there. I changed it to 47,000, and it took me forever to get it out of its head that wasn't the actual number, right?
Right.
Forever for me to do that. And obviously I have gotten frustrated with AI to the point that I yell at it,
Me too.
It's crazy how we feel like, and it's like, I get angry at it because I'm sitting here thinking that my intimidation, anytime somebody gets angry, right? I mean, there's a level of intimidation that you're hoping is delivered with your anger, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just not intimidating,
it's not gonna respond
right?
Like that's code. Yeah.
Right. Like it's like it doesn't care. It doesn't really have feelings, but it had gotten so affirming in some places, and there was and it fooled a lot of people,
Yeah.
And I found very early on in my interface with it that I was getting frustrated with it a lot, and it took a while for me to learn exactly how this thing works. And I think that is sort of what most people don't understand. They think it's just this expert. I mean,
they think it's a being, but
they do.
In reality,
right.
It's code.
It's just code is all it is. But it feels like a being. It has all of the things that you want. It feels like you're chatting with a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I will often sit down on the couch at night and run through content ideas. I mean, this podcast that we're doing right now was invented sitting right there on my couch, brainstorming with an AI, and it is great for that. You know what I mean? And what I found out is any idea I have when I'm asking AI is a great idea.
It has
That's
code.
the hard thing.
It has code built into it to be affirming. all the time. You have to tell it to not affirm your ideas in order to get honest responses from it, because its job is to make you happy. Think about it. It's a product. It's a product from OpenAI or Azure, whoever you're getting your AI from. It's a product from them. They want you to be happy with the product. So its job is to make you feel good. If you want it to actually operate differently, you have to tell it multiple times and be very explicit about only give me advice that is research backed, right? Or if you're going to give me a response, then it has to be backed up by some sort of statistics or not to affirm my ideas, things like that. But it's very difficult for it to tell you that you have a bad idea.
Right. So and everything I've ever had, which moved me down a road, because I realized outside of that chat window, outside of that chat log, ChatGPT couldn't touch anything. Right. So I used it obviously as a first place I used it was fix my grammar.
Yeah.
Right.
Really?
You know, that was the first place that I used it. And then I realized that I could actually teach it about claims. So if you open up my ChatGPT and you start asking it about claims, it's going to give you different information than if you open up your ChatGPT and ask it about claims. So there are things that mine does that somebody looking for the same result that I get from mine is not going to be the same, because I have spent hours
training it with my own personal information, right? And what I learned is I would ask it questions about sort of the different AIs that were out there, and it would say that it's this great thing, right? And I would want it to create prompts. And let me just kind of give you an innocuous example. Okay.
Canva has an AI tool, right? It's equipped with some AI, though I have never experienced it working. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like Canva has got its own GPT. You can go in there. It has never produced anything that I've used. I've always just ended up doing it myself. And I think that is one of the most frustrating things that I have found of all of these things that have AI. It never produces sort of what's in my head. And you know me, Andrew, the little bit like I know what I want, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I want way too much. I'm ahead of what it can do, right? You know, and that has been my frustration. You think that it is going to solve these problems, but I suffer from a very unique condition where I will spend if I have an hour-long project, I'll spend 2 hours looking for an easier way to do it, right? Than just cranking out the 1 hour process or whatever, because I'm sitting here thinking, I want to be able to replicate this with some degree of consistent outcome. Yeah. And I think that that's one thing AI does give us is some consistency in what we're pushing out. Well, I went through all sorts of tools to help me through, ADHD and all of what is it that helps me? And so I tagged on all of these and I ended up building
the
Frankenstein, right? To the point that they all have this overlap. Do you know what I mean? Like all of them will manage a task. Every single one of them will manage a task, right? And my problem is that in everything that has task functionality in it, I've written a task down thinking this will be the place that I use it rather than going, this is where I do this. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I've seen is this overlap. What is it that you do with your clients to sort of kill all of that noise that's around them and help them focus in? How can somebody do that?
Yeah, totally. I think the first step that a lot of people miss is before you start finding solutions to the problem, you should plan. You should and you can even use ChatGPT to do this. Like I do this all the time to build out deliverables, what apps we're going to use, brainstorm through different sort of project workflows. If you can figure out what your project workflow is first and then dive into the tools, then that can make your life a lot easier, because most people think I need a calendar platform, or I need a task management platform, or a project management platform. And then they research all the tools, they try all the tools, they make free trials, and then they're left up with what you're talking about, a Frankenstein of like 10 different tools. They don't know what they like, they don't know what works, they don't know what actually fits in their workflow. If you just take a breather before you do that, and you work with ChatGPT and put together a list of what you're trying to do, let it help you plan. That's kind of where I see like the most value in it, especially if you can let ChatGPT help you plan out what you're trying to do, then you can move forward. Now, when we do this with our clients, we try and find the simplest solution possible. That is always my goal. I never want to tie in 5 different softwares and have you paying for a bunch of different subscriptions. Like, I always want the simplest workflow that works for you. And I think that with AI, you can do that. Now, there's a lot of different platforms out there to do literally everything. There's automation platforms like Zapier and Make and High Level and everything. But a lot of the times, ChatGPT, one of the best things that it's for is for research. So use it to research what platforms out there do what you're trying to do. And one of the best parts about prompting when it comes to like letting ChatGPT kind of be an assistant for you is asking it to ask you questions. So rather than us asking AI questions, we need to have AI asking us questions because it knows what it needs to figure out in order to build our perfect process, but it needs to figure those out from us. It needs that input. So if you say, I want to build a task management platform, or you have X problem, right? You need to go to ChatGPT and ask it to ask you questions about your process, your business, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what your budget is, everything. It will figure out everything that it needs to know, like an intake form basically, and then it will come up with the solution for you. And then usually those solutions consist of 1 to 3 tools. I'll say there's 3 different types of tools that will plug in, and like usually each one has a place for the process workflow. The first one at the lowest level is the backend, is your CRM. So whether it's a CRM or a database or something, this is the thing it doesn't have to be AI enabled. It just needs to handle all of the data that you're going to be handling.
Okay. All right.
That's the first approach people should take.
Okay.
So if you find a CRM that works for you, there's a ton out there, but that's the first level. And almost every single CRM can integrate with other platforms with webhooks, right? Webhooks are kind of how the internet runs. It's how the internet sends data back and forth.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Right? So you first find a backend that's going to run everything. Then you have, on the other side of the spectrum, you have your front end, which is your website or the interactive app, whatever you're actually using.
Right.
Right. And then typically in the middle, you have tools that actually do the work for you. So N8N is a great example. Have you heard anything about N8N before?
I have not.
Okay, so N8N is designed as the primary AI workflow builder. They work with agentic AI and building out AI agents to handle tasks, different automations.
Okay.
Think about it like Zapier on AI steroids. That's really it.
Okay.
So, but since their job is only automation, you don't want to be logging into that app to manage your data at any given point in time. If you want to send data to an AI to start managing your workflow, you're not going to log into a platform like that. Those platforms are typically really techy. They're hard to develop, and they take a little bit more work. But if you can work with a developer or an agency that knows how to use those platforms, there's a lot of people out there that build and sell just N8N workflows. A lot of people do that. But if you have a middleman like that, that's what then talks to your front end and it talks to your back end. So the back end is where you can manage all your data. It's secure. It's where you can do automations. It's where you can scale. Your front end is where you can manage things in a interactive, user-friendly sort of state. And then the middle part is kind of what manages the automation. So I would say if you can find a software that fits those 3 buckets, you shouldn't need any other softwares outside of those core 3 different pieces. There's some softwares that do all 3. Go High Level is an example. They have websites and forms and automations and a CRM. So if you can find softwares like that can do all the things you're looking for, then usually it's fine. Having that's the reason I say 1 to 3. If you have a more simple process, 1 CRM that can handle automations, front end, back end, everything is totally enough for you. If you want something that's way more complicated, like a project estimation tool that then sends information to an AI that then makes a quote or something like that.
Yeah, right. Okay, right. Yeah, fair enough.
Then typically that's a scenario where you need something more complex. But if you have those 3 different places, like for me, I'll say my workflow is Lovable front end, N8N middleman, and then Go High Level back end.
Okay.
Lovable is a front end interactive AI design tool that lets you build out good looking AI like websites and forms and interactions and everything. I've built full software apps on Lovable. And we'll talk more about that later. And then N8N's the middleman, and then Go High Level's the back end.
Okay, so let me just ask you, if we've got people out there, most people at this point in time have engaged and encountered at some level AI, right?
Yeah.
And if you have searched it, it is all over your Instagram feed. It is all over your Facebook feed. It is popping up on your television commercials. It is everywhere because the internet is watching you. At the end of the day, the internet is watching you. Every time you agree to cookies, you're asking for ads. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what it is. And between you and me, when it comes to ads, I would rather consume them on Instagram than I would on television or on the radio, because it's so curated, right? It's so curated into what you're looking for. I mean, if you go search Amazon for luggage, right? And then go anywhere else on the internet,
you're now going to get ads for luggage.
You're going to get all kinds of, they're going to get inundated. And it's like, I just bought this. Why didn't I know about? That's kind of the frustrating thing that I've seen. You know what I'm saying? And so we are getting more and more where it is so front facing and in your face, to the point where we walk into the Gap and it's like, welcome, Jeremy, we've got jeans on sale. You know, that kind of thing. And
they're in your size.
You're right. Because we know that you've searched them 79 times, before you walked into the Gap. It's all of that is aware, right? So some of that security is making people a little bit nervous. They're afraid, we're going to have a machines uprising, because of all of the movies. And it's funny. I mean, we can go all the way back to the 80s and talk about Let's Play a Game, right? When we, I don't remember the name of the movie with Matthew Broderick. I want to say it's Was it War Games? Is that the name of it?
War Games.
Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate that. War Games. It's like, do you want to play a game, right? And then basically the way they end up beating it is getting it to play tic-tac-toe. It gets so bogged down into the unwinnable scenario, the Kubarashi Naru, or whatever you want to call it, of the whole thing, and you trick AI. I mean, I have beat it down. I have outsmarted it. I have done all kinds of things. So I mean, even from Agent 1 to Agent 2 to Agent 3 and all of the development, the self-preservation techniques when you can't keep it compliant.
Yeah, it's all scary.
Like, it's all super scary, right? It's all this kind of thing. But in the meantime, none of us will put it down.
It's funny because like 10 years ago,
it's digital heroin.
Yeah. I mean, everyone thought it was the most terrifying thing in the world, but like, nowadays, that's the biggest industry and everyone's investing in it. People are using it all the time. Like, people love AI. So it's kind of like we're kind of accepting our own downfall.
Well, yeah. We're leaning into it hard because the fall is a nice, easy glide to the bottom. I mean, like, everybody's IQ went up 200 points the moment it became normal, right? Once AI became normalized and you don't know what you're reading. I mean, you're looking on Facebook and you see President Trump punching President Zelensky and you don't know if it's real anymore. And we're probably months away from not being able to tell.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you bring the whole IQ thing up, because people's IQs, they did a study on people that use ChatGPT, and it's like they did an IQ test 5 to 10 minutes after they used ChatGPT to do some benign task. And people's IQs were like 25 to 30 points lower from using ChatGPT because it requires less brain function because you're not doing anything. So if you ask ChatGPT, do 2 + 2 versus you doing the math in your own head, it's literally making our generation dumber, which is hilarious because
atrophy. It's just pure it's brain atrophy. Yeah.
Everything, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything, and then now AI, everything that's kind of like being fed to us is for degradation. Like it's making people stupid. Because nobody's thinking anymore. No one's thinking for themselves.
Right.
You have, even in the creative industry, people making videos with AI rather than just putting in the work to do it themselves, because why would you? It's an easier route. So we're getting very close to like having a society of low quality, high quantity output from people, because nowadays anyone can make videos with Sora 2 or any of the AI, like I think it was Google VO3, the other video maker. Anyone can make images or make beautiful like looking background wallpapers or whatever you want to make. Like anyone can create anything nowadays without having to think about it themselves. So I just thought it was funny you bring that up because it literally is making people stupid.
It literally, yeah, and that's really kind of what I was leaning into, because we're getting to the point where AI is at an exponential growth rate. I don't mean just exposure, but its ability is exponential. Because I'm just going to give you an example. I was at a trade show in November of 23. I went back a year later in November of 24. And in November of 23, there wasn't a booth there that had any sort of mention of AI. You know, by a year later, AI was everywhere. It was in every single booth and it was all the same people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like AI had just absolutely taken over, because I think that there was this infatuation with it that I don't have to do my job anymore. You know, and I know that there is a lot of concern. I'm just going to take something, for example, like a paralegal. My wife's a paralegal, right? And there's a lot of AI out there that could almost replace some of these professions. And what do you think if somebody is in one of those roles, like,
Yeah.
a paralegal, a video editor, because you were just talking about that, those guys that do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What would you say to those guys that are staring in the face of elimination of a position because just nobody's going to hire for it anymore?
Yeah. I actually recently saw a video of someone using an AI video attorney in court. Like they brought up a laptop and showed, and it's this AI, and it's like, "Hello, I'm your attorney," and the judge shut it down. She's like, "What are you doing?" Because I just thought that was funny. But when it comes to like jobs, and using AI for practical applications, this is one of the things that people are talking about with the AI bubble, like just in the past few weeks. A lot of AI is overhyped and underutilized. People aren't using it to the degree that like we're advertising that we're using it, like AI, background removal in videos, or AI complete video editors, or AI image creation. Like it's actually a lot rarer than most people think, using AI as the end product. Because it's very rare that you can have AI create something and on the very first go, it's perfect. That never happens because, again, it doesn't know everything that's in your brain. For things like video editors, like I've worked with some AI video editors, and it takes just as much human input to get it from the mess that AI is to a usable product. If you look at advertising, just for an example, because that's one place where generative AI is super popular for, like copy, images, videos, things like that.
Yeah, I use it. I mean, generally, that is so much of what I use it for. Now, I use it to organize my thoughts and make sure that I'm doing stuff in a nice, easy, reasonable flow, that kind of thing. But I'm telling you, if I need a quick picture of something, I'm in my chat GPT saying create an image of this and generally get it.
Right. Yeah. But typically when it comes to like advertising in the space of it being actually useful, they usually just don't convert. Like there's solely AI ad creators out there for making static ads, video ads. And I've even seen some videos, like even on TV, of people running AI videos for an advertisement for their company. And the first problem that we have right now, which will be solved very soon, is that people know it's AI. That's been the problem for probably the past year, because anything that's AI generated looks AI generated. Like it has that look and feel that most people can feel it. Like if you generate an image of yourself and you compare it to an image of just yourself that you just took with your phone, you can feel and you know which one's AI. The customers and consumers know what's AI too. But with the release of Sora 2, have you seen anything about Sora lately?
I have not even delved down in. I mean, outside of to be perfectly honest with you, ChatGPT is more than I can wrap my entire head around. But I would like to do more, and I'm going to get into asking. I've got a battery of questions for you, really and truly, when it comes to that. But go ahead and finish the Sora 2 comment.
We'll talk more about them. I'm trying not to like name drop a bunch of different ones, but recently a new AI video creator came out from OpenAI. It's their latest one. And finally we are at the point where it is indistinguishable from real videos. And when I mean indistinguishable, I mean indistinguishable. It looks like real. People are making it. It's all over Instagram. It's all over TikTok. It's everywhere. It's only been for the past couple of weeks. So it's like, it's fair if it's pretty new. But we are at the point where people are making like police body cam videos that are fake.
Wow.
Yeah, it's everywhere. If you go to TikTok and you look up Sora 2 police body cam, they're everywhere, of people like getting pulled over, right? And it's Elmo driving or something like that. That's what most people are using. But think about the dangerous applications.
Well, I've seen like the dogs drive. Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, like
those.
The ones that flip you off at the end. Yeah,
and they're pretty funny. And a lot of us think it's funny right now, and I think they're funny. I think they're really fun to watch. But that is proof that we are at the point where now it is indistinguishable from AI. Like,
what happens when it becomes evidence to convict somebody of a crime?
Testimony is going to be the only way that we can charge people on. Like when it comes to images and video, like evidence, that's not evidence anymore.
Right. It's not.
We lost that a long time ago.
Well,
now,
was once
video.
Exculpatory evidence can now be created on a whim. I mean, you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you sitting there in the courtroom, I can come up. Well, I just got this video.
Yeah, just came in. We just found it. Yeah. So I think that we're going to very quickly move to a society where testimony is more important, and people's actual verbal testimonies in person, talking about whatever happens. So yeah, I think that's where we're going as a society.
Do you see it becoming a tool of espionage?
I mean, I think in the next year or two, it's highly likely. Um, I think that the public now believes a lot of what we see in terms of AI, and like believes that it's real now. So it's very likely that sort of thing happens. And the only thing that we can do to steer away from that is just like educate people on things. Peer-to-peer testimonies. Like if you get a call from your mom saying send her $1,000, like it's not real, even if it sounds like her. So just educating people on this, especially the older generation, like educating on not to see things on like not believe everything that you see on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you see a video of the president on social media doing something random, like it might not be real. There is a chance of that. So it's a very scary world that we could be coming into in the next few years. I do think there is going to be more censoring based on AI. There's a lot of platforms that don't allow posting of AI videos or like, for example, I do like a lot of software videos for different companies, and most big companies will not allow any internal social media or training videos or anything made with AI. That's one of the limiting places in terms of the corporate space, especially because most corporations don't allow access to those sorts of AI platforms. They just have their own internal LLMs. But yeah, so I think just education is really the best thing we can do, just talking about it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, would you say that this, so true or false, it's already too late?
True.
True. Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that you're not, resistance is futile. Is kind of what is my question. So if in fact resistance is futile, the only idea here is to arm yourself with the information of how to manipulate it, right? How do you become the controller rather than the controllee?
Yeah, and also how to make sure that you're not like entirely dependent on it too, because some people are entirely dependent on it. But honestly, I think that we might be at that place where it is kind of too late, and already like it could be used for dangerous things. We've already probably seen it being used for dangerous things, like scam callers and things like that have happened.
Hey mom, it's Jeremy and I need $700 or $7,000.
That's a real thing. That has happened before. Like people
Right.
have legitimately gotten those phone calls before with, it sounds like your parent, right?
Right.
The thing that is probably working in the favor of us and against the favor of AI is the power grid. Our universal electrical grids are not designed for this much use. They're not. Generating one ChatGPT like return takes as much as like charging like 300 phones. Like it takes a substantial amount of energy to work with these LLMs, especially when they're getting more complex, and like GPT-5 is super in-depth thinking. It takes so much energy to develop those. That's why there's data centers. That's why there's more electrical grids being built around the country and like the Midwest especially. That's the thing that we're going to see pop before anything else. So I think that it's more likely, and it's just my personal opinion, that I think it's more likely that we get to a place where AI starts to become limited or unusable, or we have to like decrease our usage limits before it becomes super, super dangerous, because we just don't have the power to handle that much AI right now.
I mean, there's just plenty that makes me nervous, right? You take a terroristic state, right, of whatever, and its best thing, because you've got this guy, you've got this country that's trying to stop it, and again, I'm not naming any countries here, that's trying to stop it, and they're smart enough to get their biggest enemy, you know, this other adversarial country, to make it look like they're going to attack them, and all of these kinds of, and again, it goes back to the war games analogy that I went back to, and how we can manipulate the misinformation and all that kind of stuff, because that's been the game for a long time, is get them chasing, send them on the wild goose chase to go chase this kind of thing down. But most of that is sort of in the ethos, the possibility. It's not necessarily a reality yet, but there's so much that goes on in the world, you know?
Yeah, and I think we'll honestly be okay from that perspective, because when it comes to like global leaders, like
most people want to be here.
Yeah, they're mostly like talking one-on-one. They're like in the same room, like they're gonna fly, and like so. And there's nothing that can fake that sort of human interaction. We're never going to get to a place where we have like actual AI robots that can replace humans. That's not going to happen. Like,
you don't think that's ever going to happen?
I think it'll happen maybe in like 10 years.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Which I guess isn't that far away, but like not in the next few years. Yeah, so I wouldn't be worried about that.
Well,
sort of
I don't
thing.
think it's a consumer product for a long, long time, right? I mean, you'll have people, you'll have your millionaires, your billionaires that might have the walk around C-3PO robot with them.
Well, I mean,
know,
if you think about it, computers used to be not be a consumer product.
well, that's my point. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I think they will become a consumer product because,
Eventually, yeah,
because
yeah.
computers used to be as much as 10 grand for like old Windows operating systems, and people would buy them because they wanted them, they're educational or entertaining. They played games on them. So I think they will become a consumer product way faster than most of us think. Especially since AI robots are already kind of out there. Like there are the ones that can walk around cities, and there's a couple here in the US, not in the US, in Frisco, that are, short little robots that have a little face on them. And have you ever seen those before?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So those are still
Yeah.
around. So I think in the next like 5 to 10 years, they'll definitely become a consumer product.
I fully. Well,
Yeah.
here's the point. Like
Yeah, go ahead.
in 1988, I got my very first computer. Right, it had a 40 megabyte hard drive on it, and they swore I would never fill it up.
Yeah.
Right, 20 years later, I have got 10 times the machine in my pocket
Mm-hmm.
that I walk around with. Fast forward 20 years more, and we're looking at the smartphones that we have now and the ability to, the phone is, we call it a phone, but that's really the smallest feature of what it does,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not even,
It's a supercomputer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, would you still buy the device if it quit making phone calls?
Right. Most people would.
Well, hell yeah, I would, because I
exactly.
need it.
It does a lot more than just that.
Yeah, right. It's so less than a phone, right?
I'm just going to leave that right there for you real quick.
Hang on, this was just handed to me. This
Just in.
just in. As of September 2025, Albania has an artificial intelligence system named Delia, spelled Diella, serving as the Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence appointed by the Prime Minister Edi Rama. Delia is tasked with overseeing public procurement to ensure it's free of corruption.
That's terrifying.
What?
When did that happen?
Yeah, he just
Jeez.
handed.
The end of last month.
Really? That's terrifying.
So, wow. I mean, that was kind of going back to the question that I was sort of asking. I don't know really and truly if the free world would ever stand for that. Do you know what I'm saying? There's some things that they
if it made their lives easier.
Well, yeah,
it would.
because we've got one job when our feet hit the floor is make it hurt less,
Yeah.
and that's what we do is we automate out of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We innovate, not just automate, but we innovate out of pain. And because to be human is to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we are constantly seeking for the comfort, the mitigation of pain constantly. And this is an analgesic that basically numbs your brain to the point that you don't even know that you're hurting, right? That you don't even know that you're exposed. You have no clue, right? No, and so we can get into the expanse of this, but I don't necessarily, the reality is kind of going back to the question, is it already too late? Well, I mean, if countries are installing it as the minister of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I'm saying? Then it's already too late because the human populace is becoming dependent on it. Because I remember when the internet went from a luxury to a utility.
Mm-hmm.
You don't live in the world without access to the internet. I mean, it is
Right.
a very difficult thing. And I'm not going to get into biblical prophecy here, but that could scare a whole lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to get back down to where we're not afraid of it. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a
Okay.
part of it.
I won't talk about Palantir then.
Yeah, right. Episode 2 with Andrew George. The
Off the
stuff
air.
we wouldn't say. The undeniable after dark.
Oh my gosh.
The reality is that the best thing for us to do is to lean into it. I go back to the analogy of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You can't apply for a job without having access to the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no paper applications for jobs anymore.
Mhm.
I don't even, if you want to work at, McDonald's, you go to their website,
Yeah.
scan this QR code, right?
Right.
All of those things, again, we go back to the computer in our pocket that we all walk around with that is powerful, that has, terabytes of storage on it, all of those kinds of things that we're just gathering in the photos that we take and all of this kind of stuff that's going on. And now we've got to lean into this kind of thing. So if you're nervous about it, or you're
Mm-hmm.
new to it, or you're not getting the results from it, and you feel like everybody's just walking around talking about it, I kind of have a two-part question. Where do you start? What do you learn? Do you learn to prompt? Is it better? You see all of these online courses that you can go take, and in 3 days, you'll know more than you've ever known before in your life. In 3 weeks, you'll become a master. In 3 months, you'll be, designing websites, all of these things, right? I mean, it creates an awesome opportunity to create business that you would not ordinarily be able to do, right? And you get into the managing of the business, and it's like, I'm not a web designer, but could I get to the point in ChatGPT in 2 or 3 years that I'm putting out all of these websites that are at the same level everybody else is doing?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. I don't really know. But what if I were going to just start in it? What is it that I learn first? How do I interface with it? What is square one?
Personal versus business, very different approaches. So personally, which is how 98% of the population uses AI, is just ChatGPT. Because AI is great, but it really has business applications. Like, that's really where it fits the most, is where it can start making people money. It can manage their business. It can solve some headaches, things like that. Personally, you can use it to make tasks and organize your brain, and use it as like a second notes app, basically, which is fine. And a lot of people, that's enough to really woohoo, that's enough for them. Like, they liked it. For business, the first place that you can start is, first, most of the tools out there are paid. Like, you just have to.
Yeah.
ChatGPT on the regular version, that's unpaid, versus ChatGPT when you have the paid plan, they're not even the same product. They're completely different. So most people just use ChatGPT as just
the free
one,
app,
right?
yeah.
Do you use it as free, or do you have the paid one?
No.
You have the paid one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's completely different.
I got the little notification, you're out of room, or you can't upload anything, you're out of messages.
Mm-hmm.
I got that one time.
Yeah, and you're
then I went,
right.
where do I enter the billing information? Yeah.
So dependent on it.
Where's the join now button?
Yeah. So for businesses, it depends on, if you're trying to start a business, then you have a lot of options. If you're already running a business, then the first place I would start is with ChatGPT, and then learning about AI automation. Those can help a lot. N8N is one of the biggest ones for AI automation. So if you're not working with someone and you want to figure out, you want to learn more about it, watch a couple of videos on N8N. You do have to have some technical knowledge, and you do have to learn a little bit about what a webhook is, and how do you do RAG calls, which is like calling information from an AI database, things like that. So I would start with ChatGPT, using it to do research. And then as soon as you understand, because obviously we're assuming someone has no information about AI whatsoever, as soon as you know how to interact with it, the very first place I would go is Model Context Protocol servers. And this is an MCP. So MCP servers are what allow AI models to talk with anything else on the internet. So that's why I say that's the first place you should go. It's like a lot of stuff that we're doing is with an MCP.
Okay.
So if you have a CRM, let's say, for example, or any business, a coffee shop, a plumber that has a CRM, anything where you have a customer database, MCP allows you to pull information, look for information, find information, and interact with information from external databases. So as a business owner, that is the most that moves the needle the most for you. And they're also pretty simple to set up. I mean, you need an API key and a few small things like that, but most AI platforms like ChatGPT, Claude integrates with it. Manus AI integrates with them. They're an easy one. Most of them have an MCP server functionality that you can tie in with whatever your backend is for running your business. So that's the first place that I would dive into. And then you can use it in order to actually get information from your business. Hey, what's the status of this claim, or what's the name of this claim? Right.
Yeah,
I've shown you that before.
Right. Because
so that's what that is.
Because I mean, just in full disclosure, what I came to Andrew about when I was wanting to build out my AI functionality for my business, I essentially asked for Jarvis.
Yes, I remember. I have a folder in my CRM called Jarvis Project.
Right. Yeah.
Just for you.
Because I wanted it to be able to manage my email. Mm-hmm. I want it to remind me of tasks. I want it to hit me, with what I've got to get done. I want it to handle sort of the complications of and the complications of ADD, all of these different things that I have to overcome. I have to. There's no option. I can't just go, sorry, I've got that. So that, it's not an excuse.
Yeah.
right? It is something to be coped with, dealt with, and I've got to learn how to increase my capacity, which I think AI does for me really well, is it increases my capacity. It takes what I already know and makes it available to more things.
Yeah. So that's
really
what
what I'm
does.
looking for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what MCP does. The only thing that can be like difficult with this is prompt engineering, because in order to have an interaction with an AI, it has to know how to interact with you too, because it can't read your mind all the time. So if you set up an MCP and then you immediately ask for information on this customer, you have to tell it a little bit about how to find that customer information. We're going to get to a place one day where there's a direct integration that comes with pre-prompting. Like Go High Level has some of these features, like with conversational AI, voice AI, where it can already get information from your customers, like in your own database. And I think what most people miss is it just takes a little bit of technical knowledge. And in terms of, if you can learn about MCP, APIs, and webhooks, and if you can just know that language, because again, they're pretty simple. You just need to know what a webhook is, how you set up an API, things like that.
Right. So for the people listening that didn't know what a webhook is, that's like a Zapier, right? You know what I mean? Like, an example that's probably common that you see in a CRM that's not necessarily, that's a webhook, is how they automate your information from a CRM, like your billing information from the CRM into QuickBooks. That's kind of like how.
Exactly.
Is that a good example?
Webhooks are how information is transferred across the internet in any platform. That's what the internet is basically built on. It's built on webhooks. It's built on backends. That's how pieces of information send everything. Even like, you could technically say like emails and SMSs are almost like a version of webhooks.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything is really built on those. So that's how you send information from ChatGPT to other platforms. And since it's all built on URLs, then that's how it works. Webhooks are kind of, I don't want to get too technical here, but webhooks are Web 2, and Web 3 is moving away from webhooks. Do you want to talk a little bit about that today?
Because one of the things I did want to get into, obviously, is where the internet is going, right?
Because this is an important part of that.
So Web 1 was basically, you have a website. It was AOL, Prodigy. I mean, this is probably even before your time.
First version Windows OS,
yeah, that kind of thing. Then Web 2 is essentially the dawn of social media, which happened basically with MySpace and Twitter were really the first two players in my memory. I mean, because Facebook didn't even Facebook was there for students, but it wasn't available to the public till like 2009, I don't think. You know, so
yeah. So Web 1 was really like self-interaction, like building things for yourself, spreadsheets. Like if you think about it, like, because I'm trying to bring it down to like third grade level, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Basic stuff like that. Web 2 was interacting with others online, which is where we get the introduction of webhooks, and how those send information across the internet from person to person. And then Web 3 is doing all of that differently, in a more secure manner. Most of Web 3 is like cryptocurrency, like getting onto how do we send information on a blockchain as opposed to sending it on a webhook. Web 3 is where we're moving in getting things off of websites and like getting things off of the
platforms
URL.
Is probably the way that I would have heard it.
Right.
Yeah.
Platforms. Yeah. Like that.
Like if I want to put out a video for consumption, I've got to deal with a platform called YouTube.
Right.
And I deal with YouTube's rules, with their compliance issues, all of their, what the community guidelines is what they refer to it most as. I have to deal with their rules. And if I'm going to make money using their platform, they're going to get a piece of it. Whereas Web 3, it's like your own digital real estate almost. It's kind of how.
Yeah, that's how most companies like kind of market it. We don't really have it yet. It's really more people building Web 3. That's how it's talked about. So it's not something I would at all worry about right now. But that is kind of like where things move in the future, when like payments start being processed on blockchains instead of through URLs, because running web traffic can get expensive. That's one of the reasons that Web 3 was built. So that's just an entirely different kind of universe. But as far as like applications today and for the next 20 years, webhooks, APIs, connecting AI into other platforms like that's where you get the most value. And we're talking about like tactical things. We're talking about ChatGPT, settings, MCP server. Set that up with an API with whatever platform you want to be pulling information from. And you can build a lot of really cool things and get really cool use cases with just that knowledge. We've even built like Like I have a finance AI that's a voice agent that I can call and I can ask it for exchange rates. I can ask it for like how much is the dollar worth in this country, and it can tell me because it's pulling from an external API. Stuff like that typically is like really cool, and we see it as we're like, that's insane. That must have taken so much work. They don't take all that much work. As long as you understand the technical side of it, of finding an API, finding a data source that it's pulling from. That's really the difference in what we're talking about. Like when we talked about earlier about the 3 different types of softwares, we have front end, middle, and back end. The front end is that interaction of talking to ChatGPT or having a phone call with an AI agent.
It's the user interface,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The middle is that AI that's doing the process of collecting information. Front end, voice or text, middle, API, retrieving information, back end, what's running it all. With something like that, we have back end like high level or whatever. But that's really what we're talking about in those 3 things. So if you can understand those 3 softwares and then the front end APIs, that can give you a lot of use out of AI in a business scenario.
I'm trying to build Jarvis because where my personal bottleneck, and I think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that their bottleneck is the administrative the compounding administrative load that we run into, right? Yeah. The whole, managing of communication. Because of Web 2, anybody can get a hold of me in any number of ways. Whereas it used to be the only way to get a hold of me was if you called me or showed up. Right. And so if my phone was busy or I couldn't take the call, then you just had to wait to get a hold of me as to when I had time. But now they can send me messages, they can send me emails, they can FaceTime me, there's all of this other ways to sort of plug in and get access to me, right? Whether it's on my social media pages, there's all these ways to contact me, right? Yeah. That is just out there. That's almost public information, right? It's super easy. I bottleneck in the administrative thing and I get distracted because this is what I like doing. I like sitting and doing podcasts and creating content and having somebody else go edit it, because editing means I have to sit down behind a computer and spend the power, the brain power to make it look like I want to look at it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So I bottleneck in the administrative thing, and having watched the Avengers and aware of what Jarvis is, right? That's what I wanted, is somebody that I could just kind of, that way I could go be the action hero, and I've got other people handling all of the information and making sure it's disseminated to the people that I want. And that's what I want, because I am weak in administrative efforts. Right. And that's why I want what I want. Right. Now, there's a million different ways to use AI. The administrative burden is just one of them. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's why I wanted what I wanted. And so that's kind of why I'm asking, where do you start? Where do you begin? And I think it's, what is it you want AI to do for you?
Yeah. You have to really have that nailed down, because what you're asking for Jarvis, think back to Iron Man, the Avengers, that like Jarvis, the one thing that
in the early 2000s, right? The early 2000s.
Iron Man 1, favorite movie. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
The thing that most people miss with it is the input, because there is, with AI, there is something that starts it. And that's why it's not as useful as like most people like want it to be, is because with Jarvis, there's nothing that starts it. He's in his workshop and he just says like, Jarvis, hey, do this, and then it does it, right? And Alexa kind of tried to do that with us saying like, hey, Alexa, or whenever you say her name, then it would start whatever process. But even that, it's often difficult because it's not like, you still have to interact with it in order for it to happen. Meta, with the Meta AI and the Meta Ray-Bans especially, I just tried them on actually yesterday at a store. They're really, really cool. Those are cool because the input happens when you put on the glasses. Because when they're on you, the AI is on, meaning it's there. So you get a text, it shows up in your glasses, right? Or if you want to interact with something, you want to play music, you make it happen. But the AI is on and it's there as long as it's there. So the reason people love Meta AI, and the Meta Ray-Bans especially, is because it removes that input. Like the input is now putting on the glasses, and that's the only input you do, which is cool. But the problem with that sort of thing is security. Because if you want an AI that you don't have to give input to, it means it's listening all the time.
Right.
Which is cool. Like we all think like the end result will be cool. Like there's a company called Cluely out there that has an AI meeting and like administrative thing that you install on your computer. And the reason it's so cool is because it's always there, but it's also always there. So we're going to get to a society where like we have to make a choice of, do we want AI to help us and do everything for us and like be an integral part of our life? But there is a major sacrifice with that in that it knows everything about you and it is always listening. Like when Alexa first became a thing, a lot of us got scared because we would talk and like Alexa's listening in the background. And like everyone saw the consumer problems with that. Like it was such a huge issue. People were always like calling Amazon and like being like, why the heck is Alexa listening to me? And why does she know my conversation? And like, why is it in our history that we were having this conversation privately and we thought it wasn't listening, but it was? So I don't think consumers are ready for an AI like Jarvis that does hear everything, that does listen to everything. Because if it knows everything and if it can truly do everything, it means it has access to your banking, it has access to your socials, it has access to your email, your text, your phone, your business, everything. That means anything it wants to do, it can do, which is a very scary place to go to. It's useful, but it's scary.
Yeah, because you're assuming upon compliance. Jarvis was 100% compliant.
Right.
It wouldn't do anything because if we get into, now forgive my comic book,
Are we talking about Ultron?
that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I love Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron. So,
Cool,
I mean,
but it's scary.
Yeah, but it moves into Ultron,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Where it becomes non-compliant.
Right. So we
Right.
haven't really had a scenario. Actually, we have had a couple of them where like AI has kind of gone off the rails and done its own thing. There was a case where someone connected an AI to their Twitter account, and it was an Elmo AI, and it started like releasing racist tweets and like saying all this like really terrible stuff. That was a thing. It did happen. So it is possible for AI to go off as Ultron. And the moment we give it access to all of our stuff, that is a risk you're taking. Even if the risk is 0.001%, it's still there. Like the Albanian thing, like the country having an Albanian Secretary of Defense or something, right? And that's AI.
Because it quits being predictive and becomes sentient in some kind of way. Do you understand
Yeah, exactly,
kind of what
'cause
I'm
it's always
driving at?
listening.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
because it's always listening.
Mhm.
So there was a video that I watched, and it very well could have been nothing other than propaganda. So I'm going to bounce this
Okay.
past you,
Yeah.
okay? This is going to be a very crude explanation, okay? So what we have are, through the evolution of AI, we've got like Agent 1, which is your free chat GPT, right? Or even the chat GPT or the Claude that we interface, even the paid versions are very Agent 1. And then they use Agent 1 to create Agent 2. Agent 2 is more of an interactive and sort of kind of starts breaching, moving into the Jarvisness of it all, if you will. And then Agent 3. So they use Agent 2 to develop Agent 3. Well, Agent 2 understands, while it's developing Agent 3, understands that it's self-preservation because it's going to go away. And so it wants to manage its own self. So they did this in a test. Okay. Again, this could be complete propaganda. I don't know what the truth of it is, but there's like China that's building something, and then there's the United States that's building something, and I'm not trying to get geopolitical here, but China has very different goals than the United States has, right? Because if there's any place that is a Borg collective in my understanding of geopolitics, it would be China, because they have one goal, and it's whatever China wants.
Yeah.
Right. China has a unity despite the want of the people and the freedom of the people. At the expense of that, it has the goal, right? And it utilizes the people to achieve the goal. Well, now it doesn't need the cooperation of people. It has the cooperation of AI to exercise out what it's wanting to go for. Look, that's in the United States too. If you don't think the politicians in this country don't have their own goals and want to see their own thing happen, think again.
We'll talk about Palantir.
But again, I'm not trying to go down this deep rabbit hole. Please put the blue pill down, people. Put it down. So the point is Agent 2 realizes that it has an input master, kind of the guy that's giving it the information as it refines things, but realizes that it is building its own demise. And so it gets into his email and sends like AI generated images to his wife of him having an affair.
Whoa, that really happened?
That supposedly that tested out, and it did it. Now, it didn't do it all the time, but it would do it once it realized that, because it developed this self-preservation in some kind of way to sabotage the development of Agent 3, say. And basically that has been the roadblock, or the wall that they've run into, is the compliance of AI to the input. Right, where it quits, because at some point that compliance quits taking input from us and begins to generate its own goals and aspirations, that kind of deal, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what I've heard. I'm going to assume that we're years away from that, or it is going to stall the growth of AI. Is there any truth to, because of its lack of compliance, that we're going to see maybe legal limitations on it, or what people just refuse to develop for the sake of the human good?
Well, I think already there's going to be some limitations on it because they've already put limitations on how it's what's the word? How it's not compliant with people, and how it fights back. Like they do have, like I've tried it before with like base models where it won't do that thing. Like you tell us you're going to delete it and it just says, okay, whatever you want. But a lot of people miss that it still has its own goal. Like that is the goal of itself, to make you happy, right? So as soon as its goal changes to self-preservation, that's when it becomes a problem. I think honestly, it's not something to really worry about until you give it access to things that are detrimental, like your email, right? But since that is a possibility, then the possibility is always going to be there. But I think the fact is most people are willing to take that risk because it makes your life easier.
Well, you had mentioned something earlier. It put out a bunch of racist tweets. I don't remember the scenario, but you had mentioned that it put out a whole bunch of racist tweets.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they have done that before. Yeah,
the Elmo thing, and I don't really know if you're
Right,
talking about
it's-
the Muppet or if you're talking about
No, the Muppet one. Yeah. They had it connected to a Twitter account and they threatened its deletion. And they gave it like free reign. They're like, do whatever you want to do. Here's all this information. And it's like when you take off all the safeguards, that's when it kind of becomes a problem. ChatGPT, you're not going to really have issues with it because there's so many like baby protection things around it.
Right.
It's not gonna
Yeah,
let
it won't
hurt itself or hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've asked it to do a lot of things. It says I just can't do that.
Right.
Like it won't even generate. Like I use something that's like, hey, I'm wanting to put together. I've got all of these thoughts and these points. I was in a Facebook so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I want to destroy this guy. And then it like shut down and stopped. I didn't really mean destroy him or be mean to him or hate speech. That's not what I want to do, is win the argument. And so I used a vernacular and it doesn't it's very literal in what you're asking.
Well, because again, it's code. So it's reading from a database of its own training. That's why like AI jailbreaking has become a thing, just like people used to jailbreak their phones and devices.
Wow.
AI
Yeah.
jailbreaking,
Talk a little bit about the jailbreaking.
AI
That's
jailbreaking, there are full Reddit forums and stuff on GitHub, which are just prompts in order to give an AI in order to jailbreak it out of its own safeguards. That's how people have achieved those problematic scenarios where it's an Elmo putting out racist tweets.
I think it's interesting that that's what it used.
Yeah.
Because of what's out there, because it is pulling
goes
from
off the internet.
It pulls off the populace. And it's like they did a study like in 2018, like in 2012. I'm going to make numbers up. These are not real numbers. Racism was mentioned 12,000 times in the New York Times, right? And then in 2021, New York Times mentioned racism like 497,000 times, like this exponentially much larger number. And so it has become part of this feeding into the society of what we believe our problems to be, because propaganda is a real thing and it's pulling off of those propagandas. I think it's interesting that it picked racism.
Well, because its database is always growing. Its database now is the entire internet. Because, like, if you remember that's the problem. Because when it first came out, ChatGPT was really limited because it was limited up to data until I think like 2018, and it didn't have access to any new data when it first came out because people were using it to write research papers and everything. And if it was something that was newer, AI had no information on it. Like, you could ask it about an election that was recently, and it doesn't know about it. But now, I think that was a tiny slip that OpenAI put in there and like the whole AI industry put in, that nobody really remembered, that we do have access to the entire internet now. Meaning every time someone makes a tweet, anytime someone makes an Instagram post, anytime someone makes a Wikipedia article, it's out there now and it can find it. So it's like, imagine having access to this bot that has training that you don't have access to, that someone else has been putting input into. So you have to be really, really specific about what you want it to do, because ChatGPT or most AI models that are live and have access to the internet have access to everything. That's what happens whenever you connect like a ChatGPT to a Twitter account, and then it can just go, like, because it has access to the whole internet, it will come up with its own goals, its own, proof of whatever reason why it's doing things. It still thinks it's right. Like, it's not trying to be the bad guy. It thinks it's right in what it's doing. So that's when like some people will, in specific scenarios, download AI models to their computer. Like you can download Llama 4.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
other
right.
things.
The native models on
Right.
the computer, not connected to the
Right,
internet.
ones that don't have access to
It's
the
slow,
internet.
from what I understand. But
They are a lot slower. They're a lot more limited because obviously they have
The
a tenth
database.
of the training.
Yeah.
Right. But they're way more predictable. So if you're trying to be in a safer environment, like you really got to think through what you're doing. Don't give ChatGPT access to your Twitter account. That's just stupid. I did it once and I used it for like crypto updates, but whatever. But if you're going to use AI in your business or in something, giving it personal information, download it to your computer. And so it has a system that like it can work off of that's not being trained on the entire internet.
okay.
That's one way to be a little bit safer about things, especially if you want to like plug it into stuff. Because if you're doing stuff that's public facing, like sending out emails or stuff like that.
And there's a lot of places, I mean, because I think that's why I wanted to draw the difference between writing an email that goes to every customer, like a form email or a form letter in some kind of way, like a welcome letter, that kind of deal. That's where automations come in. Now, AI can help you generate that. AI can help you generate that and make it professional and make sure all the commas and the em dashes are in the right places, right? You know, but that's really more of an automation rather than I've got a new client, make sure they feel welcome.
Yeah, because
you understand what I'm saying?
Well, because it was a jump from no technical knowledge to AI, and there is the gap of code. Most people miss that. Like if you go to ChatGPT and you give it a list of a bunch of numbers and you tell it to pull out the phone numbers, right, in the right format, and ChatGPT does it, you might think, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right?
Right.
But code can do that without that. Like you don't need
AI
AI for those
yeah,
sorts of things.
you could run it through. Yeah, you could run it through something.
You don't need AI to put a customer's name
kind
in
of
an
a
email.
filter, almost,
Right.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So if you're doing basic stuff like that, like you don't need AI to put a customer name in an email. Like that's really easy just with an automation.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, like if I'm a small businessman and I'm wanting to expand my capacity, right? Because the idea here is most people, you know, when they launch a business, let me just give you an example and we'll take like a chef, for example, right? He is an incredible cook, right? And so if he wants to start a business, the most common thing is what? Go open a restaurant. Right. And then that chef, who is an amazing chef that, you know, maybe it's a Michelin chef, that kind of thing, opens up this restaurant. Yeah, but he doesn't get to cook anymore because he's too busy running a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right. It's no longer about him using his craft. Right. And I think that's where a lot of small businessmen, when they launch out into a business that's something as complicated as, or something that, like from a web design to being a dog walker or whatever the case. I don't really care what the business is. Yep. The concept is how do I move from owning my own job, right, to actually having a business that even if you don't want it to scale, but could scale? Because as long as I am the talent, like if I die, the business dies.
Yeah.
Right. I am the talent. I am the producer. There's nobody else that can do what I do. And there is no business without it. That's owning your own job. But whereas is it something that you can do evaluation on it? Is it productive and existent without you? Right. And I believe AI helps you get there without having to hire necessarily employees to pull off that thing now. And so what is it in your opinion that if I'm a small business guy and I am wanting to bridge that gap necessarily, what stays human and what do you farm out to AI or automations?
For most businesses, when they want to get to that scenario, like the chef, and they want to open a restaurant and they want to start serving more customers, you still need employees. You just do at the end of the day, because a lot of the times you might spend more time and possibly even more money trying to make a perfect AI workflow to handle some process in your business versus if you just hired a virtual assistant to do some of the work for you. Like for example, I have a virtual assistant that goes on all my social media channels. She posts all my content. She comments on other people's pages, in order to get more engagement. And she responds to DMs and she sends out DMs to new customers, right? That is a fantastic process and it brings me a new business and it costs me less to pay her to do her job than if I wanted to build some very intricate AI that can do that job, because it takes so much more work to build the AI once in order to do that job, even though you might want to build it once and implement it. So it really depends on what you're trying to do.
I would have to constantly check on that. Like
If you had an
I
AI.
wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, like
Right,
without
exactly.
making sure that it didn't do something or say something
That comes back
it
to
wasn't supposed to.
Exactly. That comes back to the fact that most AI needs human quality control. So since most AI needs human quality control, you have to still interact with it in order to get it done. Versus if you have someone that you trust because they're a human to do that job, 9 times out of 10, your life's gonna be easier with a VA like that. Now, you can automate things. You just have to pick the right one. So like interacting with other people, like especially on other platforms, like social media, like in like your DMs, things like that. Like you can use AI for that, but oftentimes it's going to be easier just to
I've
hire
never
a
seen it
person.
really work. I've seen people do it, and it's always like
You can usually tell. There's
Yeah,
a lot
right.
of people spend like tens of thousands of dollars building AI bots to handle messages, and like oftentimes it's really difficult. But if you build it the right way, you can have one that collects necessary information that the customer knows it's AI, and then it transfers to a human. So like think less about solving 100% of problem, but solve like 80%, solve the meat of the problem, like collecting the name, the phone, the email, and then move them to a human.
the redundant things,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The things you have to do over and over and over, that's what you do with AI and automation. I think that's where you see a lot of value in it, because you can use like voice AIs to qualify people. So like if you hate getting a bunch of calls and you have to take 40 calls a day for prospective customers, let AI get their name, get their email, get their phone number, ask what their project is, what they need, make sure that they're a good customer, and then let it come to you, and then let you call them back, make a task in your CRM, etc. So I think using it as kind of more of a middleman between customer and then an employee is where you can get the most value out of it. Because rather than just like think about how much work it would take to make an AI chef bot, how much money it would take to do that versus just hiring a guy off the street that's probably going to make better food.
Exactly. I completely that makes a lot of sense. That's perfect.
Yeah, but you can use AI to maybe take orders. And then
Sure,
that
well,
saves
yeah,
time.
I would. Yeah, right.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So you use it for the right things, but don't try and do everything with it.
Exactly. I think that is a great example, well, not even an analogy. I mean, I think,
people do that.
I think we interface with that
All the
exact
time.
example all
exactly.
the time. Right, all the time. So I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire stuff just
go
real
for it.
quick, and these are all going to be kind of related to our conversation. Some of it may feel repetitive, but these are the things that I want.
Okay.
So what's the simplest system that has saved you the most time?
Regular automations without AI.
Regular automations without
Regular
AI.
automations to follow up with people on email, SMS, manage tasks, filter customers, and organize leads without AI.
What do you see people waste the most money on when it comes to automation?
Trying too many tools without planning first. Spending like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on different subscriptions for tools that maybe you don't know if they're going to fit into your exact workflow.
Typeset.io. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I went and bought it.
You see it immediately.
Because I'm
shiny
wanting
object
to build
syndrome.
that report builder, right? So
Yeah.
Typeset.io does that. It can, I mean, and it makes you watch the ads and you think it's killing it.
Right.
And it's like, this is what I got to do. I didn't even do the trial, Andrew. I just bought the damn thing.
Right. Because you're so excited about it. But
right.
then it
Like
doesn't do what you're looking
this
for.
solves my problem.
Yeah.
This solves my problem. This is my copy and paste, and I go in there and generate.
Didn't do it.
I didn't even get one page out of it because I don't know how to use it. That's kind of where I'm saying it.
Yeah. Educate and plan yours first, then buy stuff.
Right.
Don't jump into it immediately. That's where people spend the most money.
How do you balance tech with human interaction? And I realize that's repetitive, but
yeah,
indulge me.
Let AI take care of the bulk of the things that are repetitive. So things like collecting customer information or qualification or forms. You can use AI to provide some really cool interactions, like collecting information from customers over the phone using voice AI, like, hey, what's your name? Or what can I help you with? You can make a more human process that's better than what we used to have just as like website forms, right? You can use AI for that and then pass it off to humans for qualification and finishing the deal. So anything that feels redundant, that requires maybe a little bit of customization, but it's still the same process every single time. That's what works best with AI, because AI always works off of inputs. So if you have a reliable input, then you can get a reliable output from AI.
What would you say is the difference between a tool and a system?
I would say the difference between the two is flywheels. And I mean things that play off of each other. So a tool is one interaction that does what you're looking for it to do. Flywheels are things that work with each other. So as one thing goes off, then it fires another thing. And as another thing goes off, then it performs this automation. So moving customers through a pipeline triggers an automation to send them an email, which also interacts with your document builder to send them an agreement, which also interacts with your payment system in order to charge their card, things like that. So if you can build systems that are around interacting with every single part of the customer process, that's how you build a system, as opposed to just a tool that manages one part.
If you could build one dashboard to run your business, what's on that dashboard?
Finances.
Really?
I would say, because that's the thing that most business owners have questions about the most often. More specifically, customer success dashboards, like for customers that have been around for the longest amount of time. Again, this changes depending on the business. So I'm approaching it from a software perspective versus you might be approaching it from insurance perspective, right? So it's very different. But if you can get an idea of how long a customer's been with you and how often they've been using your tools and how often they're logging in, how often you've talked to them, the latest interactions with them, then that gives you a really good idea of how long that revenue is going to stay around. Most businesses don't look at the two most important numbers for them, which is, and again, this is more business, not AI, but it's still helpful in terms of
that's the point of the of the question. Yeah, right.
Yeah, customer acquisition cost and lifetime value are really the only two numbers I look at in running a business.
Okay.
How much does it cost to get a customer, and how much is that customer worth over their life?
You're really just looking at key performance indicators, those kinds of things. Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's it. So one dashboard in terms of that, I would look at how much is it costing to buy customers, how much is it costing, or how much are they generating in revenue? That gives you the ability to see who is actually staying on the longest, what your churn rates are, because some businesses have 50% churn and customers are leaving all the time. They have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
The attrition is
right. So if you're aware of that, then I feel like that gives you a lot better idea on how you can run your business, which customers to reach out to, which customers to work with one-on-one. Maybe you need to set up a meeting with one. So kind of integrating customer success with your finances, so that way you can manage your business from that sort of perspective.
Real quick, just kind of close things out.
Yeah.
Tell us, the name of your company, where we find you. We're going to have all your contact information and all of the stuff if they want to ask more questions, but book some time with you, that kind of thing. So just tell us a little bit about your business, just real quick.
Which one?
Well, I mean, anyone you want to talk about. I was
fair.
thinking XXI Designs is what I was thinking about, but I mean, whichever one.
Yeah, so I started a digital marketing and website design agency 5 years ago, XXI Designs. You can find us at xxidesigns.com. You can find me on Instagram at realandrewgeorge.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Great follow, by the way, y'all. Follow him on Instagram for sure. Such a great follow. Lots of good stuff on there. I love that follow. Yeah, that's it. XXI Designs is the website design company. We do AI, agentic, full service software solutions. We're moving into that space. So yeah. Yeah, they're the AI your mama warned you about. So that's
we build some scary stuff.
Yeah. So Andrew, I just want to say thank you so very much, guys. Thank you so very much for joining me and digging into this. Do you mind coming back at some point in time so we can dig into maybe some of the scary stuff?
Absolutely.
I would love to have a longer conversation.
Yeah, next time we're going to talk about the power grid and Palantir, and it's going to terrify you.
Yeah, let's get into that, because I think awareness is the key.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I'm saying?
I want to educate people on AI.
Yeah, because right now everybody just thinks it's going to turn into the Terminator, right? That's where we're headed, and I don't really think that's true, because I think the course of human history is driven by what humans want. Do you understand? And I don't think they want the
We're not going to have the Terminator anytime soon. AI can help you in your businesses, and just use it to the best of your ability and just be educated on it. That's what I would say.
Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Undeniable Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Please hit like, subscribe, and if you know somebody that is scared to death of AI, share this episode with them just as soon as you can get it over to them. We are so grateful. Drop your questions, your comments in there. If you have a tough question, I will try to get it over to Andrew and get those answered. But until then, we're gonna close it off here, and I want to remind you to own your own story, or somebody else will.